Today's daily reading comes from the Apocrypha from the book of First Maccabees chapter 7 and reads as follows. In the 150th year, Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, came out from Rome and went up with a few men to a city by the sea and reigned there. And it came to pass, when he would go into the house of the kingdom of his fathers, that the army laid hands on Antiochus and Lysias to bring them to him. And the king was known to him, and he said, Show me not their faces. And the army killed them. And Demetrius sat upon the throne of his kingdom. And there came to him all the lawless and ungodly men of Israel, and Alchemus was their leader, desiring to be high priest. And they accused the people to the king, saying, Judas and his kindred have destroyed all your friends, and have scattered us from our own land. Now therefore send a man whom you trust, and let him go, and see all the havoc which he has made of us, and of the king's country, and how he has punished them, and all that helped him. And the king chose Bachides, one of the king's friends, who was ruler in the country beyond the river, and was a great man in the kingdom, and faithful to the king. And he sent him, and that ungodly Alchemist, and made sure to him the high priesthood, and he commanded him to take vengeance upon the children of Israel. And they went and came with a great army into the land of Judah, and he sent messengers to Judas and his kindred, and the word with words of peace deceitfully. And they gave no heed to their words, for they saw that they were come with a great army, and there were gathered together to Alchemists and Bachides a company of scribes to seek for justice. And the Hasadicians were the first among the children of Israel that sought peace of them, for they said, One that is priest of the seed of Aaron is come with the forces, and he will do us to no wrong. And he spoke with them words of peace, and swore to them, saying, We will seek the hurt and hurt neither of you nor your friends. And they gave him credence, and he laid hands on threescore men of them, and killed them in one day, according to the word which the psalmist wrote. The flesh of your saints did they cast out, and their blood did they shed around Jerusalem, and there was no man to bury them. And the fear and the dread of them fell upon the people, for they said, There is neither truth nor judgment in them, for they have broken the covenant and the oath which they swore. And Bacchus left from Jerusalem and encamped in Bezeth, and he sent and took away many of the deserters that were with him, and certain of the people, and he killed them and cast them into the great pit. And he made sure the country to Alchemus, and left with him a force to aid him, and Bachides went away to the king. And Alchemus strove for his high priesthood, and there were gathered to him all those who troubled their people, and they got the mastery of the land of Judah, and did great hurt in Israel. And Judah saw all the mischief that Alchemus and his company had done among the children of Israel, even above the Gentiles. And he went out into all the surrounding coasts of Judea, and took vengeance on the men that had deserted from him, and they were restrained from going out into the country. But when Alchemist saw that Judas and his company waxed strong, and knew that he was not able to withstand them, he returned to the king and brought evil accusation against them. And the king sent Nicanor, one of the honorable princes, a man that hated Israel and was their enemy, and commanded him to destroy the people. And Nicanor came to Jerusalem with a great army, and he sent to Judas and his kindred deceitfully with words of peace, saying, Let there be no battle between me and you. I will come with a few men, that I may see your faces in peace. And he came to Judas, and they saluted one another peaceably. And the enemies were ready to take away Judas by violence. And the king was known to Judas, to wit, that he came to him with deceit, and he was sore afraid of him, and would see his face no more. And Nicanor knew that his counsel was discovered, and he went out to meet Judas in battle beside Capharsalama. And there fell of Nicanor's side about 500 men, and they fled into the city of David. And after these things, Nicanor went up to Mount Zion, and there came some of the priests out of the sanctuary, and some of the elders of the people, to salute him peaceably, and to show him the whole burnt sacrifice that was being offered for the king. And he mocked them, and laughed at them, and entreated them shamefully, and spoke haughtily, and swore in a rage, saying, Unless Judas and his army be now delivered into my hands, it will be that, if I come again in peace, I will burn up this house. And he went out in the great rage. And the priests entered in and stood before the altar in the temple, and they wept and said, You did choose this house to be called by your name, to be a house of prayer and supplication for your people. Take vengeance on this man and his army, and let them fall by the sword. Remember their blasphemies, and suffer them not to live any longer. And Nicanor went out from Jerusalem and encamped in Betharon, and there met him the army of Syria, and Judas encamped in Adasa with 3,000 men. And Judas prayed and said, When those who come from the king, among them 180,500, even so discomfit you this army before us today, and let all the rest know that he has spoken wickedly against your sanctuary, and judge you him according to his wickedness. And on the 13th day of the month Adar, the armies joined battle, and Nicanor's army was discomforted, and he himself was the first to fall in the battle. Now, when his army saw that Nicanor was fallen, they cast away their arms and fled. And they pursued him after them a day's journey from Adasa until you come to Gazar. And they surrounded an alarm after them with the solemn trumpets. And they came out of all the surrounding villages of Judea and closed them in. And these turned them back on those, and they all fell by the sword, and there was not one of them left. And they took the spoils and the booty, and they struck off Nicanor's head and his right hand, which he stretched out so haughtily, and brought them and hanged them up beside Jerusalem. And the people were exceedingly glad, and they kept that day as a day of great gladness, and they ordained to keep this day year by year, to wit the 13th of the Adar. And the land of Judah had rest a little while. Amen.